I'm Ricky with Everyday Woodworking, your podcast home for tips, tricks, and information on how to make the most of your woodworking time and money every day. Alrighty guys, well, welcome back, my little woodworking partners and partner-ettes. Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, welcome back. Today we are we're going to swim on over to the deep end of the pool today. We've been wading around about knee deep in our series on setting up a small shop, but today we're about to really get in deep, and we're going to jump in with a talk about how to choose a table saw. Even for a small shop, you just can't underestimate the value of a table saw. Even with the love affair with CNCs, the table saw is still like the rock steady centerpiece of the average American woodworker's workflow. So if you're setting up a small shop, then a discussion about table saws, it's not just a matter of if, but when you get one. It is a must-have. And for many of us, it might be the first big tool investment we ever really make. For some of us, it may be the only major tool purchase we ever make. But it is definitely a big choice. And so we want to approach this with its proper weight, I guess you'd say, and break it down into some logical nuggets of info as we start exploring this very important segment of the Shopiverse. All right. So, but before we get into that. Let's take a quick peek at what's been happening here in our little corner of things. One thing you may notice is there may be a little different sound quality going on. I think there is. Anyway, we've advanced a little bit. We are moving up in the world. We have been just recording on my iPhone, which is fine, and I'm recording on my phone now. But we've been just using, I guess you'd say the standard mic on the iPhone, the external mic, the internal or the built-in mic on the iPhone, which is great, but it still lacks, a little finesse. So anyway, we've got an external lavalier mic got clipped on here now, and so anyway, we're using that now, and we're just going to explore this and see how it goes until we move on to the next, maybe another level. But right now, I'm pretty excited. Got the microphone going on, so that's a big jump for us. Around here, as I mentioned last week, we're getting our garden beds like ready to rock. This week I got a ton, literally a ton of mulch, and I spread it all around in the garden areas. You may not know this, but most of the landfills in an area, they process like a mountain of mulch on site. They just grind up like yard waste and limbs and wood products, and all that stuff gets mixed in with soil and God only knows what else. But it actually makes some pretty decent mulch. And so Jackson County, where we live, they do this. Excuse me. And they just give it away. They give it away for free. All you got to do is come get it. So I took my little trailer up there. They dumped about 3 scoops on me. I thought it was going to break my trailer in two. But they dumped it on there. Man, it was awesome. and it was way more than I needed. So anyway, next though, after that, I'm going to need some cleaner mulch, or you might say wood chips, for like our garden paths and edging and around the trees and stuff like that. For that, the landfill mulch is just like, let's say it's a little funky, okay? A little funky. It's a great ground cover and a weed killer and stuff like that. It just doesn't look that great. But anyway, so next we called some of our friends in the tree service business. Tree guys always have mulch. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but some of them sell it on the side. But frankly, most of them are so busy with their tree service, they just don't have time to be in the mulch business. So if you tell them you want some mulch, they'll usually just give it to you. And if you're near where they're working, they'll just come dump it out in the yard. So that's pretty easy. So we're in the mulch, baby. It's a lot of work to put it out shovel by shovel, but when it's free, you can't complain. Alrighty, let's get into it. How to choose a table saw. Okay, as always, I'm going to breeze through this pretty fast. But of course, you can always ask me if you got questions. We'll go back over something in more detail, yada, yada, yada. FYI, I'm not going to suggest a specific table saw here. And you'll see why in a minute. But the variables, they're just too varied for me to tell you what the best saw is for you. You're just going to have to weigh everything out and make your own choice. I will say, though, I'm going to leave a few links in the notes down at the end to some of my favorites. I'll just go ahead and say we've had a Ryobi 10-inch benchtop table saw for years, and I love it. It cuts through anything we need it to for the most part. Some things we don't, like my finger, but it is a great entry-level saw. And when I bought it, I think I've had it probably for maybe 3 years now. When I bought it, I think I bought it for $88. It was on sale out at Home Depot. So for less than $100, it's just hard to beat, and it's a good general purpose saw, and it came on a stand, so it's great. I also like the rigid table saws. They're a little bit better. The entry level saws are a little bit better. They're probably about twice the price though of the Ryobis. You can decide if that's worth it. The DeWalt is always a good choice. If you can find a good used Craftsman saw, hey, that's big thumbs up for that. That'd be hard to top. And Warrior and Chicago Electric brands at Harbor Freight, always affordable alternatives. So there you go. There's a few to get you started. And like I said, I'll leave links at the end to all of this. All right. To help you choose the best table saw for your small shop, though, I'm going to break things down into 5 general areas. And that's going to be use, size, features, reputation, and budget. All right. Number 1. Use. How will your saw be used? These are some questions you want to ask. How accurate do you really need it to be? I mean, okay, for me, let me just give you a quick example. For me, I said I'm using the entry-level 10-inch Ryobi table saw, the benchtop model. Is it perfectly accurate? No. But I'm building rustic stuff the overwhelming majority of the time. I don't need it to be perfectly accurate. I don't need it to cut huge things. I don't need to cut super thick things either. So you need to ask yourself, how accurate do you really need it to be? Because an entry-level saw, it's just not going to be that accurate. A cabinet saw, it's going to be dead on. But I don't know if you need that. You want to ask also, obviously, how thick of a material typically you're going to be cutting. Are you going to be dealing mostly with softwoods or hardwoods? Are you going to want to break down a lot of like plywood panels, a lot of big sheets, stuff like that? How often are you going to use it? Is it going to be a daily thing or like once a month? You want to also consider how often you're going to be using it. Are you going to be using it indoors or outdoors? And I'm saying that from the standpoint of dust collection, because they can really throw out a lot of stuff. I use mine in my open carport a lot, but it still generates a lot of fine sawdust in the air. So I'm going to have to wear a dust mask all the time. I would say the good rule of thumb is buy for the most complex operation you think you're going to be using your saw for. And then, of course, my standing rule is buy the best tool you can afford at the moment and then make it last. All right, on to number 2, size. You need to pick a size. So I'm going to breeze through a lot of criteria for size. There are 3 basic sizes, possibly 4. 4 would be a hybrid saw, but I'm not really going to get into that. We're just going to do the 3 traditional sizes, okay? Now, I've already been talking about the benchtop model. That's what I have. That's kind of the entry-level table saw. It's for small jobs. It's usually portable. It may come with a stand that makes it portable. It's going to have a small table, so you're only going to be able to have support for small material, maybe up to, I don't know, around an average of 12 to 16 inches, something like that. The features are going to be limited. It's probably going to have an aluminum top, which at first glance, hey, that sounds great. It's lightweight. It's aluminum. You don't have to worry about it warping, things like that. Don't be so quick. The aluminum is definitely an inferior material as compared to cast iron. It's just not going to be as accurate. It's going to have a universal motor instead of a belt. It's going to have a direct drive instead of a belt drive for the blade. It's going to plug right into whatever wall outlet you've got outside there. It can be pretty loud. The benchtop models they're just loud. But they can be very lightweight, probably less than 100 pounds. And that's obviously because it's portable, you need it to be lightweight. The next level up is going to be a contractor grade saw. Some people call it a job site saw. Actually, a job site saw might be in between a benchtop and a contractor. Okay, so if you see something that says job site, that's not really a contractor grade saw, but it is approaching a contractor grade saw. So for a contractor saw, it's definitely going to have more power, probably going to have a brushless motor. It's definitely going to be smoother in operation and in the cuts. It's going to be more durable. It's going to be more accurate. It will definitely be quieter. And it probably is going to employ a single belt drive. So the motor's not going to drive the blade directly. It's going to have a belt drive for the blade. It's going to have an excellent fence, which will be one of the biggest steps up from the benchtop model. It will probably have a cast iron top. It depends on the maker. Probably still will plug into any outlet you've got around the house, and it's probably going to be around a couple 100 pounds, okay, because it's not exactly portable, but you can move it around, but it's going to be heavy. The next step up, and the Mac Daddy, is the cabinet grade table saw. If you get a cabinet saw, you're dead on serious. It's going to have an enclosed motor, which is why it's called a cabinet saw, because everything is enclosed in a cabinet beneath the saw. you're very serious if you're getting a cabinet saw. You're probably, not probably, it's not going to plug into a standard wall outlet. You're going to have to wire up some 240 for this. But it's going to be very powerful. It's going to be very accurate. It's going to be stationary. You're not going to be moving it around. You might have some wheels, but you're not going to be moving it around. It's going to have a large table with options for extensions and extra outfeed, stuff like that. The trunnions are going to, and I don't want to get too technical here, but the trunnions are going to be very beefy, and they're going to be cast iron, and bearings are going to be very beefy. So that's going to contribute to its longevity and its durability. The trunnions are also going to be base attached, which is a very important feature. You're only going to find that on cabinet grade table saws. As I said, they're incredibly accurate, very smooth, and they are pricey. I mean, they just are. So that is a breakdown, or a look at the breakdown of the 3 general categories of saws, the sizes. Number 3, features. The fence is a huge feature when it comes to a table saw. A locking accurate fence is a critical feature. On a benchtop model, it's going to be a pretty good fence. The contractor grade is going to be dramatically more accurate. The cabinet grade, it's a no-brainer. You don't even have to think about it. It's going to be dead on accurate. You can upgrade a fence usually on a contractor grade saw. Probably not for a benchtop model, unfortunately. A miter gauge, like my saw came with a miter gauge, which is great, but it's small, it's narrow, it's wobbly. It kind of does the job, but it's just not super duper accurate. So you want a large miter gauge. You want stop points at 90 and 45 degrees at least. It needs to be wide, and it needs to have a tight fit in the channels on the top. Dust collection ports are also a nice feature. The table size will go up with the size of the saw and with the price of the saw, but the table size is obviously a big part of having a professional table saw. Power, 1 to 2 horsepower, 15 amps or so, probably good enough for most of us. If you're doing a lot of 8-quarter stuff, a lot of hardwoods, that may not work. You may have to bump on up to a bigger saw. As I had mentioned, electricity plug-ins, standard wall plug-in is all most of us are going to have. The only experience most of us, I should say, have with the 240 is going to be like your dryer or your stove, something like that. You're probably going to you will need that if you get a cabinet saw. But the others, you can just plug them into whatever. But keep in mind, the more powerful they are, the more electricity they require. And so you get a heavy duty contractor grade saw and you just plug it into a wall outlet, it's going to be taxing those electrical connections. So just be safe. Okay, that's just be safe. Table extensions are a good thing to think about too. How easy it is to change a blade, that will be something to consider. Bevel adjustments, they need to be easy to do and they need to be accurate, again with locking points if possible, at the common stops. Safety is something that you don't get a lot of on a benchtop model. Blade brakes are definitely not standard, but man, I mean, they would have saved me the agony of cutting my finger with mine, because my saw doesn't know the difference between my finger and a piece of wood. So Blade brakes are fantastic. They are a great feature to have. Number 4, reputation. Reputation does matter. It really does. Research your stuff online, at least. Consumer Reports is a great place for some unbiased reporting on different models. Look at the publications, I like Family Handyman, look at Popular Mechanics, things like that. People that don't have anything to gain. So if you go to the Ryobi site and let's say for example, and I don't know if they do, but if they've got on their blog, if they've got the 10 best table saws you can buy, obviously they're going to be highlighting their stuff. Just use some common sense. Go to an unbiased source if you possibly can. Of course, ask around. Friends and family, other woodworkers, they know what works, and they won't be skewed. They'll give you honest information. Be wary too, speaking of being skewed, be wary of like if you go to a Home Depot site and you see seller reviews, or you go to Amazon, you're reading the reviews, just be careful. Obviously those can be skewed also. So the last category is budget. Okay, buy what you can afford. I said that a minute ago. A benchtop saw is probably going to be about, I had made in my notes about $100 and up. It's probably going to be more like $150 and up. Contractor grade saw is going to be more like maybe $350 and up. A cabinet saw, you're probably not going to get one for less than $1,500. And you can go up, and it can get crazy to 10 or 15 grand if you want to do that. But once you spend $1,500, $2,000 on something, to me, that's a good chunk of change right there. So don't go crazy. Only pay for excuse me, the features that are really the most important to you, and just pass on extras that you really can't afford. Just rein yourself in, okay, when it comes to the features. Don't go nuts on them. Name doesn't always matter. I know I said reputation matters, and it does. And when I say reputation, I'm talking about what people think about their experience with that tool. The name, while it can indicate quality, like say at one time, if you wanted hand tools, wow, Craftsman, they were impossible to beat, especially with that lifetime warranty. So in that respect, the name does matter, but sometimes it doesn't matter. So, and Harbor Freight is a good example of that. As I had mentioned in earlier episodes, I've had a lot of success with Harbor Freight products, even though a lot of people will just whine and moan about Harbor Freight. But I've had success with them. So just do your homework. Pay attention to the names, but don't let that make your decision for you. You may want to listen to our podcast on budgeting and sources of money for outfitting a small shop. That may help you if you are looking into getting into something that's going to require you to spend more than what you got on hand at the moment. If you're going to have to go into some debt, of course, be very careful. Go into debt slowly and wisely. But if you're going to go into debt, you might want to look back at that episode. I can't remember which episode it was, but not very deep back. So anyway, I think that may help. Alrighty. Wow, that was it. I did go longer than I wanted to this week. I knew I would though. And I still felt like I really kind of flew through it, but I hope that was helpful. That is it for how to choose a table saw. That was a super quick look at, honestly, one of the most important tools you will ever buy for your shop, ever. And with that in mind, though, there are undoubtedly things I forgot or I overlooked. So, hey, if I said something you disagree with, let me know. Let me know, and we'll see if we can hash it out, make it right. And be sure to come back next week. We're going to take a break. The plan is next week to take a break from setting up a small shop to answer some questions, some woodworking and small shop questions. We're going to do a listener Q&A episode, and this may be something we do like maybe about once a month if we have a good time with it. I think it's going to be a blast. So I know you're going to want to be here for that. So mark your calendar, make yourself a note. Make sure to come back next week and listen to our listener Q&A. And if you've got questions, you've still got time to shoot some over to me. I'll make sure I give you some contact information in the notes. One last thing. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, please take a second. Leave us a great review. And wherever you're listening, we would love it if you subscribe to our podcast, became a regular listener. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, obviously we post a lot of videos, and we try to post a video of each podcast episode on our Apple Valley Farm, that our YouTube channel. That's our woodworking channel. So definitely like, comment, subscribe to us there as well. And finally, if you'd like to learn even more about us, you can check out show notes. Head over to www.applevalleyfarmga.com. You can also visit our store, see woodworking projects, plans, yada, 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 things like that. All right, that's it. Have a great day, and thanks again for being here. I'll see you guys next time right here on Everyday Woodworking.